Hi, everybody, and welcome back on the Purple Quarter podcast series, season two. Today, we are extremely excited to have somebody that who's one of my favorites. I've known him for a while now. We would like to welcome Ranjan Sakale on our show. Ranjan, welcome. Thank you so much for
Thank
doing.
you. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
For the audiences who don't know Ranjan, Ranjan is an avid bike lover. So he's generally, you'll find him on a bike. He thinks it's easier way to commute. And the other piece that I would like to talk about is long stints, right, Ranjan, in your, in the companies that you've been with. Let's start with ThoughtWorks. You were there with them for 10 years, and you had a Gojek journey for almost 5 years. And now into Vedantu. Now, taking a cue from that, I'd like to start my first question. So, two different companies. For people who know ThoughtWorks, they know it's very driven by a lot with strategy with tech. Then you moved on to Gojek, which was building something really enormous in Southeast Asia, and then into Vedantu, which is building ed tech in India. How does it feel? What is it that one needs to hear about these companies?
I mean, first of all, thanks a lot for refreshing. It's been a great journey. Um, ThoughtWorks was, as amazing. I mean, I would still say anybody who's joining the industry today should, obviously go to ThoughtWorks. It's the best place to learn how to deliver software, how to be a professional, um, and the fact that kind of doesn't get that highlighted is how to be a good human being as well, right? So we still try, but yeah. And I think fundamentally different way of working compared to not just getting things done, but getting the things done right. These things get inculcated a lot. I think when I moved on to Gojek, along with a whole bunch of people who used to work there as well, um, we kind of got that part along into building a very high scale B2C startup. I think again the thread that I'll keep talking about is uh, kind of treating teams and in organizations like a school, at least from the expectation side. So every person continues to feel that they're learning and strive for learning every day, um, and building things that are of value, right, to people. So yeah, I think Gojek was again enormous. At least in my time over there, there was growth. Like people used to say, it's growing like crazy. It was probably beyond crazy for a long time. Uh, and I think again, fundamentally the same thing, right? It's everyday learning. Most people, including me, did not know how to, grow and scale systems that big back in 2016, and we all learned together, and we failed a lot, and kind of learned a lot from there. There on, I think Gojek again taught me a couple more really important things, right? Apart from uh, how to manage and operate on things, but also around the humility. This is something that is, uh, that comes from the Indonesian culture, and the organization is kind of built around that. An amazing set of people. Uh, I had worked in cross cultural, cross geographical teams before, uh, but yeah, working with Indonesian people was an amazing experience over there. And again, I mean, we set up the whole team from scratch. A bunch of us worked on or got close to around 200-300 people that we had hired amongst the 3-4, of the senior people, and it was an amazing experience, right? Gathering these these sharp minds who are forever eager to learn and build things. So we actually had a lot of fun. I mean, it looks like every time I look back and say 5 years, it doesn't feel like 5 years, right? And Vedantu again, like I said, the same thread, and this one's actually based on learning. It's an organization based on like the business of learning as well, and I think the same thread continues. Again, I mean, different challenges. Uh, Something that I really have a lot of respect for is, I mean, again, at ThoughtWorks, at Gojek, these were products that and services that I was building, which nobody in my family was using, for example, right, or extended family. But Vedantu gives me that opportunity to build something that maybe some of my cousins or their children are using, and that's a huge driving factor. Um, and I think the other aspect is it's not just, this thread doesn't just go across the engineering team, but across the whole organization, right, on how to make great social impact by bringing in consistent high quality teaching experience to wherever you are, right. And that mission itself is so fulfilling to work on, that even if you're not a technologist, being part of that mission is hugely fulfilling. And again, being part of the technology side of things, building things like Wave, we'll probably talk about that over a period of time. These things are an amazing experience.
Yeah. So if I were to even think of the time that we probably went to school, I don't think I would have even thought in my, I don't want to call it dreams, right? It'll be nightmare sitting at home in front of something. But I think it's phenomenal, what technology has done to the entire ecosystem, specifically education, the learning side of business, right? So one never imagined online is something that we can read and learn. Of course, we did have Coursera and the other ones when we were growing up, and it seemed interesting. We had these computer courses that came up, which was interesting. But now it's a complete sea of change. You were talking about Wave, and I want to pick up that specific one, taking a cue from there, want to understand. Could you enlighten us about what does Wave do and how does a learning for a child really get, from a technology perspective, how does it get translated? That'll be interesting to know.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, you brought talked about the right thing. I think back, even back in engineering school, and even after that, a lot of learning was still classroom or peer learning on the job, right? But at school, it's very different, right? School, there's always one person who has very high amount of knowledge, and that's the teacher.
Mm.
And that person's actually addressing a classroom, and they get a lot of feedback while being in the classroom, right? So imagine if you're a teacher and you're teaching around 20 kids in a good, good school, or 60 in a crowded school. You get a lot of feedback while you're teaching, right? Are people paying attention or not? Who are the people who are learning fast? Who are the people who need special attention, and so on and so forth, right? So when you suddenly take that and put that on a Zoom call, or a Google Meet call, you lose that connect, right? And especially because these tools don't allow you to really look into everybody's work and assess how they're doing. Also, a lot of effort that goes into teaching is about how to use the Blackboard, and so I'm still talking about the at par experience with what an offline classroom experience is, right? Um, and so Wave is basically a teaching environment that allows students and teachers to interact with, just like a Zoom call, but and it's basically a whole bunch of additional things associated with it, right, which are very specific to the education ecosystem, right? So the two things that I talked about was the ability to assess how your students are learning, right? So if you look at it, um, in a classroom, you would be able to see people, like where they're sitting and how their body language is. Are they sleepy? Like probably me in the classroom back in the day, or are they talking to each other? And then there's this a lot of stuff that, at least on the academic side of things, a teacher looks for, right? So that's something that Wave inherently provides, right? It provides a view for the teacher to be able to see every child in the room, and through very simple filters, we are able to assess who's paying attention, who's not, right? And imagine on a Zoom call, you get a blinker saying, this kid probably needs more attention.
Yeah.
uh, right? The teacher is now able to assess whether they have to repeat or they have to ask a question or they should they quiz, right? And so you get to the next set of things, which I think technology enables something that goes far beyond the physical classroom, which is when you look at how to assess how a student does in school. Perhaps, I mean, back in the day when I went to school, the first exam was like 3 months from the start, and then you had these quarterly tests, right? And up until then, nobody really cared whether you were learning something or not. And so, I mean, very akin to my experience on the tech side, which is, the shorter the iteration is, the better your learning capabilities are. um, Wave allows teachers to create small tests right in the on the screen, right? And so imagine if I could, probably lecture somebody for like 40 minutes around, let's say, Newton's laws, and then create a questionnaire which I come prepared with, and then ask those questions right on the screen, right? So as a touch screen, because a lot of our people actually use it on the phone, they could just click different parts of the screen, um, um, and give their answers. And then there's a leaderboard, and there's you know animations around like exciting people about the next question, or if they've done well and stuff like that, right? All of it teacher controlled, right? Including the ability to create an ad hoc questionnaire right on the screen while teaching, right? And this happens a lot because teachers, while they prepare a lot, there's always a couple of things that come up in a classroom where somebody asks a question that needs a little visual elaboration, and the teacher could do that, and then while elaborating they could actually create a quiz right on that drawing itself, right? So these are very small but very, very potent things that we've built, again, built with a lot of feedback from children, so, and teachers, and teachers, to be honest, love it, right? And students, obviously their learning outcomes show that it's making a difference. So it's, if you think about it, that's one big side of what Wave is. I think there's another part to it which I should bring up, which is, in a country like India, bandwidth usage and and availability is not really very standard and uniform. A child in Bangalore would probably have access to great internet and perhaps uninterrupted power supplies as well. Um and imagine a child probably somewhere in Mandya, or maybe even a smaller village near around. They may not have access to great internet. They're probably on a phone,
Hmm.
and power supply is also an issue, right? So what we had to do, or tackle as a problem, is this ability to build a system, or rather, sorry, probably have to scratch that one. So we had to build was a system that allows us to be connected, um, to the child for taking very, very less bandwidth, right? And at the same time, allow for disruptions but take care of them, right? So disruptions will definitely happen. Um, so the one thing that I didn't talk about was, while bandwidth is not uniform, it's also very costly for a big part of our economy, right? And so if you look at it, there's three or four things that we've built in on the Wave platform. One of them is specifically on the bandwidth side. It allows us to transmit the same video quality, at least on the teacher side, to the students and the reverse, at around 50% the bandwidth usage that Zoom uses, for example, right? So that allows us to have a very small footprint on a student's data plan.
Got it. Got it. So, Ranjan, I'd like to deep dive a little on what you said.
Yeah.
The blinkers coming up when a child's probably not paying attention. Is it to do with, is there computer vision also there? I mean, how does that work? If you can maybe give some bit of info.
I mean, so the thing is, we have video streams coming in for every child in every class, right? And most teachers can turn that on for children with their acceptance. And what that does is it allows us to start analyzing that video stream, right? So using, again, I mean, I don't want to call it very, very fancy stuff, but it's very simple computer vision techniques that allow us to extract information, right? And then because we have a lot of classes and data collected across a lot of classes, we've been able to build some models that allow us to understand uh, what a student is going through, right, at a very coarse level, right. At the same time, we also listen to the audio channel when people are giving answers. Audio channels are amazing ways to understand whether a student has high energy, low energy,
Yeah.
enthusiasm, and stuff like that, right. So combining these two, plus at the same time, like I said, teachers quiz a lot in the classes. I mean, that's how our curricula are decided and defined. So combine these two with the test results. Also, I mean, in future we are also looking at understanding how soon and how fast they respond. Right. To combine all of these to be able to, this kind of allows us to build models on top, and then we're able to figure out again at a very coarse level, right? That if a student has um, either difficulty or they're not paying attention, or they're distracted and stuff like that, right? And most of the time, the teacher likes that information with them
Yeah.
because it's always better for them to have that information than not to have. Um, plus, uh, what I have seen happen multiple times is when a student doesn't understand something, maybe it could be a concept that again the teacher builds on for the next 2 months worth of classes, right? Like for example, you look at calculus; it's a very it's a building block. Once you learn it, then the next 2-3 months or even like years are built on top of it, right? And so if a student doesn't understand something, um, their performance over the next 2-3 months actually slows down and goes down as well, right? So what this kind of a system allows teachers to do is to actually ensure that students are able to understand, right? Which is something that, again, like I said, it's not really possible in a physical classroom because teachers do not have access to intelligence systems that tell them if somebody is understood or not. The test results that come in at 3 months, right? And here we have tried to shorten that iteration and the cycle of understanding how students are doing, right? So I
Mm.
hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
this is brilliant, isn't it? I wish I had this in my trigonometry class. Would have probably done better in life. That's what I was thinking. If you're gonna analyze a person's learning capability, I think it's a revolution by itself, isn't it? And I think this can be applied anywhere, not just to students. It can be applied to different facets. Very interesting info that you gave us about Wave. Why is it called Wave? By the way, is there a reason why you guys have called
It's an acronym, undisclosed acronym.
it?
Very interesting that you talked about the capability, right? So what we are talking about is actually internally what we call the classroom experience, right? The capability side is completely different, and it's actually another big part of what Vedantu does, right? So these are one of the hidden teams that work a lot on figuring out um, after a bunch of touch points, right? So unlike, for example, a ride sharing or a delivery app where the interactions are very very short, and even if you buy 10 items from a e-commerce site, they can the touch points are very short and they have lot less data to understand who you are, right? Obviously, people do a great job at it. But Vedantu actually is slightly different. Right? It's not a transactional one order and go away kind of a system. People actually spend a lot of time on it, right? Hours in classes. So, so we also collect a lot of data
Mm.
about students when they're logging in. Do they log in 10 minutes before the class? Do they log in 5 minutes after the class started? Right? And exam results over a period of time. So that imagine that I'm able to plot in a very very simple terms a
Mm.
student's performance defined by certain parameters over a period of time, and it goes like this. And then at some point of time, something changes, right? And it could be completely outside of the classroom, right? Like maybe they stopped coming to the class on time, right? Or and by assessing and identifying that, we are able to take care of students far better, because we can then inform our operations team to run some interventions, right? Like maybe calling the parent and saying, how is it at home? Is your child going through a tough time for some other reason and all that, right? So it's just a very simple example, but outcomes is a completely different business. It's also very data intensive, right? Um, Other things that, for example, one of the things that we released a few, I think, weeks back was a was a promise based um, uh, sales structure, where we say that if you take a bunch of tests and come to our classes, and you have some basic expectations on the attendance in the class, there's something like what, 75% or something. If you're able to do that, we will guarantee that you'll have a better outcome in your exams, right? And if you don't, then we'll pay your money back,
Wow.
right? So
Yeah.
so
Parents,
it,
parents
it
are all happy, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
This-
I mean, we hope so. Well, I'm hoping that they actually enjoy and seeing their children flourish, and not uh, worry about money over there. Because anyway, we are not charging that much these days. But the important thing is that through technology, we are able to make such promises, which is just amazing, right? It's basically an engineer's dream to work on a system that allows the for such such promises that can be made by the business organization.
True. So you were talking about something, I'm just going to go back on what you said, like 2 hour
Hmm.
classes, 3 hour classes, and it's actually recording. If I'm the child, it's recording my data. That's a lot of data, isn't it? A lot of data
Yeah.
for one student. And I know you're a big advocate of data security. We've seen some of your tweets. I think you're more on Twitter than you are on LinkedIn, or maybe on both the platforms, but I see a lot of tweets around that. And also, if you were to tell us, how does this get put to use? So if I'm a child who's been with a platform for 3 years, is there any kind of a predictive that you do with the data? How about how secure is the data? If we can talk about that.
Got it. Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. I think I care a lot about not just personal data security, but also, how we store as an organization, and how secure it is. Right. So, at the outset, I think a lot of this work is currently in play, right? And how organizations grow really fast nowadays has its effect on how we design systems from scratch, and adhere to those designs, right? So while that's parked, I think the basic idea here is that we do not store identifiable information. When I say identifiable information, we basically list down a bunch of things that are kind of that can be used to identify a person, right? So first and foremost, names, phone numbers, addresses, um, and photographs and stuff like that, right? So a lot of our um, lot of the data that we collect, it's basically stamped to an ID, right? Assume that there's an ID that we generate for each student, and whatever data we collect, most of the systems that actually are in the data collection space, and even modeling and execution space, they actually do not know who the student is,
Hmm.
right? They
Got it.
just basically say, this is the ID. And then if you were to dig deeper with a person who has some privileged access, they can actually go and figure out. But there's very, very few people who have that access,
Got it.
right? Again, I mean, if you look at the finance industry, there's regulations around it, right? Where we kind of try to follow the similar principles, right? Um, in terms of what is still collected and displayed, so every video session that happens, we store that, right? And that's because a lot sometimes students miss classes, or periodically they want to go back to classes to refresh their memory. And there are times, for example, in Wave, you could call a student to the blackboard, right? And let them explain some topic to other children in the class, right? And those are videos that actually get captured, right? So there's a lot of debate that internally happens whether to keep that or not. And I think we've kind of sided in the direction of let's actually keep that and make it safe, the storage safe enough, so that we are sure that that's not going to leak. But those videos are stored internally and they're available to the classroom that the child belonged to, right? Um, Now, the reason why we chose that is because when we removed that, right, the classes became very, very dull, right? Imagine it felt like a teacher is teaching in a class without students, right? I mean, again, this is if you go to YouTube, you will see a lot of teaching videos which don't feel empty because they're not interactive in nature, right? Because the teachers already prepared very well. They're not answering any questions. They're not taking any doubts. They're just lecturing, right? And that's great. But Vedantu's model is slightly different. Right? We have a very, very interactive classroom. Another thing that I probably did not talk about Wave was there's a chat room in the like just like Zoom, but it's heavily moderated because again safety is a concern. So there's a lot of buzz in the class, right?
Sure.
Uh, so that's there. Another thing that I should mention here is uh, that safety is not just about like keeping the data separate, but it's also ensuring that results that come out are also safe, right? So once again, similar set of practices, but most people don't like to share their results going out, right? So while on an aggregate we do a lot of this learning outcome orientation, these are all either they're treated at an aggregate level, right? Let's say what's the graph for all the students in Bangalore looking like today, right? Not at like who's that kid and what are they doing. That level is still going to be with teachers and an operational role that we have, which is called a student mentor, right? A student mentor role is somebody who's looking through the student's journey, hopefully through the time they have with Vedantu, right? It could be 3-month courses, it could be like a 3-year engagement, but they have this one person, just like in schools. Although I didn't ever meet one, but there's a person who you could go to and always talk about, share your grievances, give feedback, right? So that's the person.
Sure.
And that person has access, the teacher has access. Rest, most people like don't have access to results, right? Even in hopefully in a few months time, even engineers won't have access to this information, right? The system generates it, keeps it in a safe location, and again programs deliver those report cards.
This is
So a
so
lot of these things are things that we care about.
I think very futuristic thinking. These are going to be based on numbers, and won't we have a child's name to it? So there is a specific number that's allocated. So just going back to what you said that hey, you also see voice, how whether it is high, it is low. Just thinking of it aloud, and Ranjan, you can tell me if I'm going the wrong path altogether. But would you also associate this with soft skills, where some kids they do well, but they're not confident enough, or their energies are low, in due course when they grow up, these are few things that their managers keep pointing at them. Do you see, do you see this to be one of the things that Vedantu will probably also attack and take care of for children? Do you see that happening?
Well, I mean, to be honest, on the academic side, sky is the limit, right? And there's so many things that even as a parent, I feel that a child could learn maybe in a short class or a long class. But see, again, here the intention that we have is to ensure that we are helping the teacher teach the best, right? So while this information is useful, because it is useful in that context, we don't really plan to use that information for creating um, creating a new course and then sending people over to that course, right? It would probably not be how Vedantu is built as an organization, right? We don't really um, look at I mean, this would be something like sales organization has access to the data, right? But anyways, so I think the interesting thing is, while you bring it up, we do have some courses for what we call the K to 5 segment, uh, right? And there are some readers courses, and there's a speakers course as well, which we are seeing a lot of value, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities. uh, in the past 2 months, and actually this was like around the time when first the pandemic was kind of giving us some relief, and then when it banged, when things turned to the bad, even during that period we saw a lot of people coming to our platforms and having their 5 to like 8 to 12 years old children do these readers courses where we take children through a bunch of books. These are very different courses compared to our regular classroom courses, right? They're different because the teachers are trained specifically for this age group. They're different also because the classrooms are smaller, right? It could be 1 to 2, sometimes maximum 4 kids in a classroom. They're very, very interactive. They don't they have a very high level path defined, but teachers are allowed a lot of maneuvering on how they want to teach, and the results are amazing, right? The videos that we see, again, students, this is something that again I'm learning as well. Vedantu as a product has such a huge impact on people's lives, especially children,
Mhm.
that they send us a lot of videos.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. So they send a lot of, and this is the probably the age. I mean, back in the day, we would probably write a letter to somebody, and you
Yeah.
know, kids send us a lot of videos, and some of the videos from the readers group are amazing, right? And the confidence that kids have, um, and the ability to navigate through a computer and come to a classroom, without having a parent chaperoning them for all of the time,
Sure.
and having a great experience, right? And they make good friends as well. So overall, I think what you said is right. There's a gap, um, and if our market research works well, we'll create more and more courses in
Sure.
that area, right? But again, like I said, completely based on the pull rather than pushing more courses into people.
Got it. So, when you were discussing this, I was just thinking of something like even now, if you have to look at a lot of platforms, there's a lot of gamification that happens to make learning more exciting. Do you guys have that for kids, not just a teacher, but is there like games to help with quizzes or any of that sort?
I mean, so we are in the process of building it. Can't really disclose when it is going to come out because I just saw a bunch of
You.
demos, this morning. So it's going to come out, but uh, so what we really have right now is a classroom experience.
Right?
It takes the student through a journey which is not really animated, but it is kind of built like a system like that, right? But if you look at how market leaders across the globe are doing stuff, um, animation does play a big factor, especially in younger children, right?
Right.
Somebody at 5 to 6 years age, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
So very excited about building those, uh, and I mean building those animated game based parts in the app. Whether it's the same app or not, we're still debating. But it's amazing. It's fun to play them, right? So we have the privilege to play with those things before they get released.
That's nice. Good to hear that. I'm just going to move back to the time that you were contemplating of about edtech, right? The whole Vedantu episode. I know I put you on the spot when we were discussing about edtech, and it was the COVID era, and edtech had become one of the most promising sectors because everybody was doing this online. So I'm sure there's a bit of challenge that Vedantu as a company would have gone through with sudden scale. So I wanted to ask you, how has that evolved now? From a technology standpoint, do you still have challenges? What are the things that you're tackling? So two questions really. One, how have you evolved? Second, what are the challenges you still face today?
Mm. No, I think so. There are actually multiple challenges and types of challenges that I could probably, when you asked me, came to my mind, right? So if you look at the last 16 to 18 months, and I just joined Vedantu 6 months before, right? So the org had already been working a lot on building these systems like Wave. Um, I think fundamentally the first thing to call out is people used to salespeople used to be all in office. Now they're all away, right? So the whole operational side of things where you measure how effective your sales team is, and a huge sales force in almost all it takes have a huge sales force, right? So um, so bringing that, um, you know, bringing everybody back into the office while not being in the office physically is a technical problem. And I mean, while there are generic problems out there, again, EdTech is a slightly different sector, uh, and people have to be more sensitive about that what they're selling. The promises are very different. The promise is not about immediately making a lot of money, but taking a student through classes. Parents are also very very conscious about who the teachers are. Can they get a demo? Can the child go to a class for like a couple of days and then they can decide? The ticket sizes are huge compared to, let's say, a food delivery. A ticket size could be something around 500 to 1,000 rupees. Here the ticket sizes are like that much a month for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things that they all went through in the pandemic era. But I think the thing that worked well was the system was built in to actually enable remote learning, right? So in the last 6 months, we've just sharpened the pencil, to be honest, right? But in the last, I would say around a couple of years, the company was actually trying to solve this problem without going through an extended lockdown kind of a scenario. So overall, I would say when Vedantu is specifically concerned, the uh, the operational sides got strengthened, which was again something that the lockdown enabled. But now we have a far better, uh, you know, uh, uh, operations department. We are far more async in terms of how things are done,
Sure.
as against everybody just raising their hand and saying, "Come over, let's talk and do it." Um, Purely from technology side, I think uh, we've been focusing a lot on how, like I gave you a couple of examples earlier,
Mhm.
how learning outcomes can be measured and can be used, right, to motivate children, right? And some other things, now that we are fully into this zone, we've also heavily focused on different types of content that enable better learning, right? So um, and I think at the same time there's always this um, how do I say this, there's always this dichotomy, right, that you're growing fast and people like your product and they have huge demands coming in, right? And obviously you can't grow the team, you can't double the team in a year and not have the effects of that,
Yeah.
right? So as teams grow, your productivity goes down slightly, and then you have to shift gears a little bit, shift down, then again uh, to basically go slow to go fast and stuff like that, right? So a lot of that has happened. And what it enables us to do is to rethink our strategy, right, from the engineering side. So that's the last point from me, right? For a lot of time, when you see this high growth, the focus of the organization is on uh, how to get as many children on the platform as possible, right? And that obviously hits the revenue, that hits everybody's report cards start looking great. And engineering is basically in the back seat, right? It's almost like the engine is at the back end of the train, pushing things.
Right.
But I think as you grow, you see that when you get so many people in, the operational side of things become harder and harder,
Sure.
right? And this is true for any any sort of business, right? It could be, you could look at food delivery, you could do a e-commerce. If your operational cost goes high as along with your number of orders or minutes per paid minutes per class or whatever you want to measure, engineering is the only solution, right?
Sure.
And so we've kind of completed that full circle, built a lot of tools. Now they've gone through the wave of huge amount of orders coming in, lot of love from our customers, and now we're back into that. There's a whole bunch of things that we kind of paused and focused on um, the revenue side. Now the organization is again forced to focus on engineering, not just from outside but also within, right? There's a
Sure.
lot of solutions getting built uh, and as we speak.
Right. So that means that your engineering team is growing. So I'm sure you are hiring quite a few people. So this is for audience who want to come and join you, right? Ranjan, if you can tell them what is it that they can expect to work with you, from a tech perspective, from a culture perspective as well.
Yeah, got it. So, I mean, see, at Vedantu, we, like I've been mentioning since the start of this conversation, I think the most important part is we are still learning, right? Nobody thinks like thinks like they're a master. Most people assume a learning stance while doing things, and that's what the team is all about, right? It's about making sure that we continue learning. um, we are also at the same time creating safe spaces for people where they can choose and work on areas as and when we have Slack. So because the edtech space is quite vast.
Yeah.
You could get a breadth of experience, right, from working with data scientists, to build intelligent systems, to working on high scale aspects of the let's say for the doubt solving side of things. So there's a lot of different diverse platforms that allow people to go through multiple stacks, work on a whole bunch of things even before, like for example, an year is not completed, but I've kind of learned 3 4 new things already, right? um, and I think the fundamental um, demand from me and the whole engineering team is that everybody behaves like a craft person, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's really important to all of us, right? And the basic idea is you must do better than what you were doing yesterday, right? How you were doing yesterday. And it's really important because that is how we will be able to build better and more interesting systems as we go forward, right? So these are the three things I would say that for a person like me are really important, right? A culture that allows you to experiment, a culture that expects craftsmanship out of you, and people who are willing to learn with you, not always telling you what to do, right? So I would say that's a good glimpse of how we are, right, as a team.
Sure. I think for people who are listening to this podcast, especially the ones who want to come and join you, I'd like to openly tell them that there are two things that they'll get if they were to join your team. Since I know you, I'm going to take the liberty to talk about it. One is go really deep on understanding what they're trying to build, because you ask a lot of questions. You're inquisitive yourself, so I'm sure they get to learn a lot more. Getting deep is when you solve, the problem. You go to the grassroots level and solve the problem. The second thing is you're extremely empathetic as a leader. I've seen that even when you were with Gojek, you worked on the entire HR side of things, which no technology guy gets exposed to. Where how you went about looking at not just for your org but for the entire globally, you coined the entire piece. So that's really appreciative, and definitely it'll add value to people who come and join you because you'll be empathetic as a leader as well. I'm not saying the other technology leaders are not, but I'm saying there's an extra, bit of, I think, trait that you have, Ranjan, which will work very well for people to come and join you. Yeah, so for all those guys who are listening, please join Ranjan's team at Vedantu. They're building some cool stuff. If I was an engineer, I would definitely want to come and join your team for two main reasons. One is it's impacting the younger audience, and that is actually going to build the community at large, right? How India is going to shape, how the country is going to look. The second is that kind of an impact is like almost every doorstep, there is an impact at that level. It's impact
Exactly.
parents and the kids, right? It's a humongous amount of impact. Definitely would want to be part of that journey. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that brings me to one question. So, now when there's so much happening around, there's so many buzzwords that are created, so much of demand for engineers, and everyone hop, skip, and jump, they find or offer. What is the advice you'd like to give to if you were in that specific age group to a 21-year-old self? What is the advice you'd like to give? Yeah.
Okay. So again, I mean, I'll practice. Rather, I'll preach what I practice. I think one of the most interesting things that I learned over accidentally, right, was that I think if you learn and if you invest in the right things over a period of time, this is something very similar to, like, for example, investing in the um, right equity, or wherever you can measure growth, right?
Yeah.
If you're investing time in learning the right things, compounding happens over a period of time, right? And I think that is something that I deeply believe in, right? That the reason why a lot of leaders that I work with and I look up to, they're there because they've gone deep into certain areas, and they've spent a lot of time sharpening their skills, their minds. At the same time, they also have broad experience, right? So there's two things that are seemingly opposite of each other, um, but they're slightly different, right? So basically, going deep is having the ability to learn something, go in deeper to get the best at it, right? And there could be other people who are great at it as well. um, and that's when the other thing kicks in, right? Which is, do you have a broad experience or not, right? And that breadth of experience brings in uh, you know multiple stacks, ability to solve problems, working with people, communications, and so on and so forth, right? So one thing that comes out of that is solve for problems, and focus on learning. I think most of the time the financial aspects automatically come in, right? Over a period of time, right? Over engineering or over indexing for that early on in the career, what that does is you end up kind of mentally getting trained towards that, right? You look if you were to look at the experimentation world, what triggers I hope you have is, what did you learn, how
Yeah.
much did you learn, and how relevant is that to the world 5 years from now, versus how much did you make now, right? Because what happens is, over the next 10 years, your triggers will be very different from people who are going to be relevant
Yeah.
in the
True.
ecosystem, right? So your competitive edge will go off, and over the next 20 years in your career, the only thing that will sustain you is, number one, your skills on the technology side, both depth and breadth, and second, the people that you carry, with you. When I say carry, I mean friends, peers, respect from them, the ability to disagree with people and still be friends. These are the things that actually make you win, if I may say that, right? Over a long career. So if you're 2021, think about it. It's not really a sprint. It's a marathon, right? And so best stock up for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So well said. I hope whatever you just said gets instilled in people's minds as well, rightfully in the way it should. Because what you're saying is it's not going to be just you finish the race and it's done. It's a long term thing that one person needs to think of how they want their journey to be, right? I love the part that you say look at the people that you carry with you till the end of wherever you're getting to. I think very brilliantly said, Ranjan. I will definitely keep this in my mind whenever I think I'm sprinting. Yeah. So yeah, so that brings us to the end of our episode. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience? This could be people, who get onto your platform, or people who want to come and join your team. Just general information that people want about Vedantu. Happy to hear from you.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to add a little bit to your previous question, right? And um, mostly relevant to what we're seeing out there, right? There's a huge amount of demand for engineers, and there's a lot of financial as well as non-financial benefits that employees get, right? And I think fundamentally what you see happening is that there's a huge amount of inflation in not just salaries but benefits also,
Yeah.
right? And I feel that's amazing, right? I hope that becomes the norm, that organizations start treating people like adults, and not like stop parenting them, right? Give them enough agency to go and make impact. I think what tends to get highlighted is how much somebody is making. The slow, that's the fast immediate effect that you see. The slow effect is that the world is changing now, right? And that the change is that a lot of HR people that I talk to, they're actually changing in their their attitude towards people. Organizations and managers and founders are now more cognizant of how important engineering is and how important good engineers are, right? And just the result of that is that people are willing to pay higher salaries. They're willing to spend a lot of money, right? For example, at Vedantu in the last 6 months, we've uh, completely upgraded our base pay by 40% across the board, with ESOPs coming in and stuff like that, right? So it's easy for me to go and convince the founders about this now, right?
Sure.
So the reason why I bring that up is that the reason why this is happening is because of good skills.
Mhm.
While there's a lot of um, base movement, or you could say broad movement across the market, that salaries will go up, expectations also go up, and therefore just wanted to supplement that by that, while a lot of money is incoming in the system. We were talking about how funding
Yeah.
um, is kind of booming right now. That money goes, part of that goes in this, but also expectations go up, and the only way to get out of it is with a win, is to be in a zone where you're learning, and you're continuously getting better at things that you were practicing, right? So that's something that I just wanted to bring up, because it's extremely important that people focus on longer term career planning, not just short term. Let's make a quick buck out there and then move to the next one. That era is probably going to get over now.
Sure. No, no, we see that changing as well, to be honest with you, Ranjan. We're on the other side. So we see that happening. People are being more conscious about the kind of leaders they want to work with. Yeah. So I think it's good changes that are coming about. But like rightfully you said, this is not about making a quick buck. This is about making sure that decide for what you want to do in the long term. And I
Exactly.
really love for engineers to come and build what they like building. And like you said, there's a lot of learning, a lot of autonomy. That's what I hear from the conversation that we are having. So I'm sure those engineers who are listening to this, of course, the 40% hike as well would have probably sounded three more times than the learning and the other aspects. But definitely I would wish for a lot of people to come and join Vedantu and your team, because I'm sure I can guarantee on your behalf that there's a lot of learning. It'll be a lot of deep learning. I think that's what's going to make this entirely
Yeah.
exciting. And the second piece, I think there is empathy in the way that you've described how this will be more from a culturally. I think this is going to be exciting for people who come and work with you. So here's wishing all the very good luck to people who apply, because Ranjan's going to be a tough interviewer. He'll go in deep, yeah, in terms of understanding the skill sets. But I'm certain that you'll find the best lot coming and working with you, Ranjan. That's what we.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we are hoping for as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ranjan, for being on this show. Lovely to have chatted with you. And
My pleasure.
the only thing is that I'm not in that time and age that I can go and use the platform. But otherwise, I would have loved to use the platform because it sounds so exciting, especially for learning. And look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do from gamification as well in the future.
Thank you so much, and yeah, would love to show it. Next time when we meet.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ranjan. Thanks for being on our show.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right.